Hello everyone, and welcome to a brief after-action report of my solo playthrough of Axis and NI Stalingrad of round 7. Let's start on the region board. As you can see, the results of Operation Uranus have been a little bit mixed. If we move to this side over here, what's it called actually? Bolshoi. You can see that the Romanians or Italians or Hungarians, whatever they are, anyway, the Axis miners, have actually cleared the area from the Russian assaulting troops. So yeah, over there it hasn't been terribly successful. The units that were in Manoilin have moved over here, and one of the tank destroyers or assault guns moved in here, and it did succeed in delaying the Russians somewhat, in the sense that the Russians did actually take it out, as well as the other units that were there at the end of the previous round, but they only have one unit left themselves, and it delayed them for a round. Had they been destroyed on the German turn, which they actually would have been if I hadn't moved in that extra unit, because it was the only unit left, the Russians would have been free to move right through it and to really move into the German rear, which is pretty empty, as you can see. So it was actually quite pivotal to have that unit over there. They did finally take out the German units over here. By the way, if you're wondering why the Japanese tokens here, they're just a reminder to me, that I want to say something about what happened there. So they're from Memoir 44, and yeah, it's just a good reminder, as I said, to remind me to tell you something about it, that something special happened, or that it's something worth mentioning. Anyway, over here what you can see is that here as well the Russian assaulters have been destroyed. So this is actually pretty important. So on the German turn they can move, well, probably most units in here and maybe one unit in here, two here, one here, so that over here as well they'll delay the Russians for even more turns, and here perhaps it'll even result in the destruction of the Russian tank, and then these will have to move in somehow. They will probably move on over here, but yeah, so this is not going as well as it did historically. That's pretty obvious. The bombers over here, it was still clear weather, by the way. They dropped supplies, three of them dropped supplies into Potomnik, where they hope to make their last stand. A tank and a mechanized infantry moved from what's it called, Betakovka, through Buzinovka and then to Kromoslavka with a blitz. So and you can move them in pairs, a mechanized infantry and a tank. So that does severely threaten the two areas from which Operation Winter Storm is to be launched. So that really is a bit of a problem. However, should it be nice weather on the next turn as well, this unit could move in, and then with some air support they should be able to take out these units, but that will depend a lot on the weather. The other two remained in place over here, and two infantry moved up from Tinguda. The other ones, some infantry and an artillery moved from here as well. That does leave the supplies pretty vulnerable. I guess they could be bombed. I'm actually not quite sure if you can do that, but I'll have to look it up in the rules. And one more artillery moved in here, but the battle is still ongoing, even though, of course, the Axis minor forces are unsupplied over there. What happened on the city board? Well, first of all, the grain elevator was retaken by this infantry unit that offloaded from the ferry into the grain elevator, and as the rules specifically say, you don't have to end your move. If you come from a ferry, you still have your movement phase, so it moved into the southern rail station, and then if it moves onto this place on the next round, which it's intending to do, and there's not much the Germans can do about it, then the units in Pavlov's house will still be supplied through the train station, but yeah, the German supply situation without actual supply tokens, which of course could still be flown in, I suppose, might become a bit of a problem. Other than that, the units in Pavlov's house The fighting seems to be quite reminiscent of history. Both sides are suffering losses each and every turn. Yeah, the Germans do have the upper hand now, so who knows? They might be able to take it on their next turn, because there's only a single infantry left. But yeah, then probably that one will land if it's not taken out by a bomber. Mamayev Kurgan as well. Yeah, casualties on both sides. I have to admit that the assaulters, or sorry, the ambushers, didn't cause any hits. Neither did the artillery. I used one bomber. I used three, as I said, to drop supplies in Potomac, and one tried to take out the bridge, but it had to face the full might of the Soviet anti-air artillery, which was like 8, 4 over here, 1 in Mamayev Kurgan, 2 over here. Yeah, so, and I believe there's one somewhere else. Well, at the time, maybe there was one other one and it got destroyed. I don't remember. But yeah, there were 8 misses. So that bomber actually survived, but it also failed to take out the bridge and the infantry on it at the time, which would have prevented this move. Yeah, as you can see, the Germans abandoned many of the victory sites because they're going for a total victory, which is going to be quite challenging to achieve. As you can see, they have few units left. This unit in the north is unsupplied because Pardanovka was taken by the unit in the bread factory, which moved here on the Russian turn. Here there's been a lot of fighting going on as well. There are 3 German tanks left, 1 Russian tank and 2 artillery. 1 artillery was placed there on the Russian turn, and no more tanks can be placed, at least for the time being. But yeah, that sector might become contested again. But yeah, a lot going on. I guess there's not much to say about who's going to win this fight. Again, in the city, it will prove pretty difficult for the Germans to win. They might take 1 or 2 more sites, albeit with probably high losses. But yeah, then they will have to retake all these zones that they have lost again, which would mean that they would have to move a few of these units into the city again, but they really can't do that because, yeah, then it will be very difficult to keep hold of Potomac, which will be a challenge in the first place. As I said, this battle is going to be pretty pivotal on the next turn, and the weather is going to be crucial there too. As I said, the Germans, of course, always go first, so if you actually manage to move in this unit here and then perhaps with 3 or 4 bombers really trying to make sure to take them out, then these sites are, for the time being, relatively safe, although this unit, of course, can easily move into it as well. Yeah, so it might even be an option to attack this site with 3 bombers in the unit and here 1 bomber and hoping to take it out, and then yeah, maybe at the cost of a bomber, but then hoping to at least take out this infantry unit to give them 1 extra turn, which should be enough, obviously, because Operation Winter Storm is going to arrive on turn 9, so if they can be delayed for 1 more turn, that should be okay. But yeah, especially these 2 units are really going to be critical. Yeah, no hits either from the Katyusha rocket launchers. They've been performing quite poorly, not too many hits. And the Russian bombers actually helped take out a lone Axis infantry, which was being attacked by, I believe, yeah, by these units, I suppose it was. And then, of course, it was the only possible site because the other ones either had no units or it was an ongoing battle in which case you can't use any bombers. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And of course, you can, yeah, and unfortunately for the Russians, they didn't receive any fighters as reinforcements for Operation Uranus, so they can't use any air power in ongoing battles because that's allowed with fighters, but not with bombers. Okay, so I hope you're up to speed again. I hope you've enjoyed this little video of the AAR of turn 7, and I hope to see you again on the next one. Thank you for watching.